Welcome aboard, everybody. Dr. Peter, your steadfast advocate for health. Thanks for tuning in and turning on. This is another in a series of live, free, worldwide webinars that we roll out every once in a while in order to engender and to excite more interest about what we are up to. The dissemination of science-based, clinically verified medical information about alternatives to conventional MD monopolistic madness brought to the marketplace. We do not have a free medical market. We haven't had a free medical market since the early 1900s. The medical landscape has been completely dominated by the MDs. We have been underneath their direction for a long, long time. And our health is getting worse. There are very few physicians like myself trained, licensed in the holistic method, and who have more than 2 decades of clinical experience. I bring all of that experience to bear as we discuss different health conditions, different disease states, and different ideations of treatment. Quite frankly, that's what we are up to tonight. We're going to talk about depression. So for those of you who are new, thanks for your time. I appreciate it very much. I hope you gain some understanding here tonight, some insight, perhaps even have a eureka moment or two regarding how medicine has been developed and delivered over the last 100 years. For those of you new, let me give you a little bit of a background concerning me. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician. I have over 27 years of clinical experience. I received my BS in pre-med from the University of Massachusetts in 1987. My naturopathic degree from Bastyr University in 1991. I've been licensed to practice naturopathic medicine since 1992. I also have a radio program. It airs every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's called the Dr. Glidden Show. You can gain access to it at my website, glidden.healthcare. You can also get a copy of my book, The MD Emperor Has No Clothes, an expose on all things medical. It's available in paperback and as an ebook. You can get information about all of this by going to my website, glidden.healthcare. Now, like the fella said, you don't know what you don't know. And when it comes to the delivery of medicine in the United States, Canada, the European Union, New Zealand, Australia, and all industrialized nations around the world, we are out of touch because of the medical monopoly. So I'd like to invite you for about 5 minutes here to just sit back and enjoy a presentation that I've put together to give you insight into the delivery of medicine, the world of healthcare, through the eyes of a naturopathic physician. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden. Thank you so much for tuning in and turning on. Let's get going. Now, medical doctors do not own medical science. Medical doctors own just one piece of the pie of medical science. It's referred to as allopathic reductionism. It's one piece of the pie of medical science. There are many different pieces of this pie. There's the naturopathic piece, traditional Chinese medicine, chiropractic, osteopathic, and of course the piece that the MDs are trained in, allopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine is what the MDs practice. They do not practice medicine. Nobody practices medicine. Medicine is a vast domain with many different distinctions. Allopathic medicine is based upon a medical philosophy referred to as reductionism. And if you are attempting to understand how your medical doctor thinks and what your medical doctor is coming up with for treatment, then you must understand the reductionistic method. Medical philosophies inform everything that a physician does. MDs, being trained in reductionism, believe that the human body is a machine made of parts. There is no soul, there is no vital force, there is no inborn spiritual intelligence in the human body. The human body is a bag of biochemicals waiting to break, and the body does not have any inherent healing ability. So it is not the MD's job to cure your condition. It is the MD's job to manage your symptoms with drugs. To manage your symptoms with drugs. Now, as a naturopathic physician, I'm not against drugs. I can prescribe drugs, thank God for Novocaine. It's not the drug, it's how it's used. Your medical doctor does not use drugs to attempt to cure your condition. Your medical doctor uses drugs to control the metabolism of your body. Naturopathic physicians, on the other hand, holistic physicians in general, are trained in the holistic method. And holism argues, guess what? There is a soul. The body is a system, a complex system of interrelated parts. There is an intelligence which is running the show. Your body is so smart it grew itself all by itself from a single-celled organism into you. And holistic physicians argue that the body knows how to fix itself, and it is the physician's sacred duty to deliver therapeutics that support the body's built-in, God-given ability to fix itself. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, as we are attempting to understand something, it is perhaps prudent to have the right perspective. Perspective is everything. And when it comes to depression, which is what we are up to talking about tonight, we need the proper perspective. I thought it would perhaps be useful to give you a little bit of a background before we dive into the main event, to the subject material which we are all here to talk about, depression, what causes it and what to do to fix it. You must understand that from the medical doctor's perspective, depression is a facultative breakdown in the biochemistry of your brain, and there is no curing it. There is no curing it. Perspective is important when we are attempting to understand what people do. Your medical doctor is trained in reductionistic medical science, which argues the body cannot fix itself. Depression cannot be cured. As far as the MD is concerned, this is the perspective that they bring to bear. And it's important that we understand that moving forward. So, let's start at the beginning and look at the numbers, shall we? 400,000 people in the United States are diagnosed with depression. 2.5 million people in the world. Now, these are the people that are just simply diagnosed with it. These are the people that show up at a physician. It's so bad that they show up at a physician's office complaining of depression. I would gainsay that there are 2 or 3 times this number of people suffering from low-grade depression or even full-blown depression that they do not seek physicians' help from. The data on this page, of course, from the World Health Organization and a website called healthline.com. Suicide. This is a map of suicide in the world. Suicide rates per 100,000 population in 2012. If it's the darker it gets, the more suicide there is. You can see that the United States is not good. 10 to 14.9 people per 100,000 in the United States commit suicide. A little bit less in Canada. A lot greater in Eastern Africa, India, and Russia. This is depression that is so bad that people are forced to take their own lives. All of this death and destruction has happened under the watch of the MDs. Because the only medicine that your hospital practices is MD medicine. The only medicine your insurance pays for is MD medicine. The only medicine they talk about on TV is MD medicine. They talk about alternative medicine disparagingly, calling it alternative medicine. I don't practice alternative medicine. Calling what I do alternative is like saying the only type of real dog is a German Shepherd and all other dogs are alternative. Well, that's nonsense. I practice holistic medicine, which is sophisticated, science-based, clinically verified, and is your last best hope for recovery from either an acute or a chronic illness, much like depression. According to the American Journal of Psychiatry, the incidence of depression has doubled from 1991 to 2001 in 10 years, and it's gotten worse from 2001 until 2015. You can argue that depression has always been around and that it's not getting worse, it's not the MD's fault, but that's a false argument. That's not a correct argument. That's wrong. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5. While we have given complete, utter, and total control of the medical marketplace to the allopathically trained MDs practicing reductionistic, pharmaceutical-centrist medicine, depression has gotten worse. It's getting worse, not better. CBS even agrees Americans more depressed now than decades ago. More depressed now than decades ago. And it wasn't because people sucked it up back then. It's because people are more depressed now. I'm going to tell you why people are more depressed now. It has everything to do with diet and lack of nutrition, which is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, not better and better. Perspective is interesting and important. Mandatory, quite frankly, when we are attempting to navigate this territory. Remember, your medical doctor is trained in reductionistic philosophy of medicine. Reductionistic philosophy of medicine, which argues that it is the doctor's job to overwhelm, control, and manipulate the biochemistry of the body when they are interfacing with a disease. Antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, anti-hypertensive, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. It is an oppositionally defiant medicine, which argues the human body is a bag of biochemicals waiting to break, and when it does break, it's not the doctor's job to fix it, it's the doctor's job to control it. With man-made pharmaceutical medicine sold to you at a profit. The medical doctor believes. Are you sitting down? I would counsel you right now to strap a seatbelt on and to put a heavy book on your head, because your head is about to explode. Because your medical doctor is trained in reductionistic philosophy. They believe that consciousness itself, consciousness, is a function of biochemistry, that when you die, it's lights out, game over. No such thing as the soul. No such thing as the divine spark. No such thing as the spirit. No such thing as the vital force. No such thing as inherent inborn cellular intelligence. does not exist. Because reductionism argues that Newtonian physics demands proof. If it can't be measured, it does not exist. Since nobody's ever dissected the soul out of a human being, it does not exist. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. So your psychiatrist, your medical doctor, believes that consciousness itself is a function of biochemistry. There's no sense. Everything that you think and everything that you feel, all of the art, all of the poetry, all of the music, everything, thought itself, culture itself is a function of biochemistry, has nothing to do with divine anything, has nothing to do with anything other than an evolutionary fiat of biochemistry. You need to understand who you are talking to and how your medical doctor thinks when you bring yourself to their office. Let's face it, you're depressed, you're in a bad way. Life is horrible when you're depressed. Life is hard enough. But when you're depressed, it's triply, quadruply hard, very, very difficult to navigate life when you're depressed. And I'm here to tell you that you are depressed because your body has run out of the raw materials it needs to maintain proper biochemistry. It's that simple. We're going to get to that here momentarily. But we must understand that your medical doctor believes that when you're depressed, it's because you have faulty brain chemistry. And so the doctor attempts to manipulate, control, and overwhelm your biochemistry with their biochemistry, thinking that they are, in fact, smarter than nature, smarter than God. Because to the reductionistically trained MD, God is a fiction. So, it's all about biochemistry this and pharmaceutical that, right? And remember, again, it's not the drug, it's how it's used. It's not the gun, it's how it's used. You can use a drug holistically. You can use a drug to attempt to cure a condition, but the medical doctors do not. For goodness sakes, every time I sit in the dentist's chair, I thank God for Novocaine. But the way that the MDs are trained to use drugs, interfacing with people who are depressed, quite frankly, is old-fashioned, outdated, archaic, and dangerous. Of course, it's antidepressants. The manufacture of a synthetic man-made chemical, the intention of which is to manipulate your biochemistry this way or that way to induce you to feel a particular way. Antidepressant use has skyrocketed here in the United States. In 1998, 11.2 million Americans took it, and what's that? 12 years later, it doubled. 23 million Americans take antidepressants. This is unbelievable to me, considering what I and my colleagues know. This is not a United States phenomenon. I have a worldwide audience, and I'm proud of that. Since 2010, every country in the world, antidepressant use has risen. It's not getting less, it's getting more. The pharmaceutical companies are pitching this to people left, right, center, and all around, all of the time. My Canadian friends are amongst the highest users, third in the world, third in the world, third in the world. 86 out of every 1,000 Canadians takes an antidepressant, 86 out of every 1,000. And it's not because there's less sunlight up there. That's got nothing to do with it. It's not a vitamin D issue. It's good to be the king, though. $12 billion a year in worldwide sales of antidepressants. Drugs intended not to cure the condition, but simply to manage it, making you dependent on the drug and subject to the side effects thereof. Again, the MDs can get away with this because they exist inside of a monopolistic, unregulated, self-policing profession. The leading cause of death in the United States is MD-directed medical treatments, and nobody goes to jail. 700,000 people a year are killed by MD-directed medical treatments and nothing happens. 3,000 people died in 9/11 and we go to war. This is how deeply down the rabbit hole we have gone in our abject, utter genuflection at the altar of the MD. And for all of our respect, all of our money, and all of our trust, while we have been under their care and their tutelage, depression is getting worse, not better, and it's bankrupting us. Of course, any discussion of antidepressants would be wanting if we were not to talk about Prozac. Prozac, the first antidepressant, the golden child of psychiatrists, rolled out into the marketplace a number of years ago. Prozac is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. In my book, The MD Emperor Has No Clothes, which you can get for $9.99 as an ebook, $21 as a paperback at my website, glidden.healthcare. I wrote an entire chapter on this, and it was, I excerpted, say that 10 times fast, an article written by Dean Wolf Manders, PhD, entitled The FDA Ban of L-Tryptophan, Politics, Profits, and Prozac. This is going to enlighten you, perhaps, as to the relationship between the Food and Drug Administration, the pharmaceutical industry, and you. So let's take a little snapshot of it right now. Now, we all know, of course, that when Prozac was first rolled out onto the marketplace, there were studies that proved that placebo was more effective than Prozac. Placebo was more effective than Prozac at helping people to feel less depressed. So if with the MDs, it's research this and double blind that, and let's pay attention to the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't psychiatrists prescribe placebo? Because it's been proven to be more effective than Prozac. Inquiring minds want to know. But when we are attempting to understand what's going on with Prozac, it really boils down to something quite simple. There is a biochemical in the body called serotonin. The body creates serotonin. It's a neurotransmitter. The body creates many neurotransmitters because the body has wisdom and the body knows what to do to get the job done. The body knows what to do to keep you healthy and happy. But the body needs raw materials to make serotonin. The body can't make serotonin out of thin air. It needs raw materials. When we are attempting to understand this in relationship to depression and mood, it's basic. More serotonin is good, less serotonin is bad. The less serotonin you have, the worse you feel. The more serotonin you have, the better you feel. So the medical doctors, understanding this, instead of delivering to people nutrients which were made by nature that you couldn't patent and couldn't hold exclusive production rights to, instead of counseling people to take the amino acid tryptophan into the body, they developed a drug called Prozac, which did not make the body produce more serotonin. It held on to the serotonin that the body already produced. As when a neurotransmitter secretes serotonin, it does its job, and then the body, in its wisdom, recycles it. The body naturally wants to recycle the serotonin, suck up the used serotonin, and then recycle it into more serotonin. But the MD said, no, 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 we're not going to support the body's ability to do that. We're going to interrupt this process because we're smarter than nature, smarter than God. We know what's best. And we're going to make more money if we do it this way. So Prozac is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. When you take Prozac into your body, it inhibits the cells from sucking up the used serotonin. And so you get old serotonin that lingers in the blood. Opposed to L-tryptophan, which is a naturally occurring amino acid, which stimulates the body to make serotonin. Now, wouldn't it be smarter to deliver people L-tryptophan? If you're trying to upregulate serotonin production, wouldn't it be smarter to stimulate the body to make more of it, to give the body the raw material that it needs to make more? Well, I think it would, but no, 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 no. We have to control nature with man-made synthetic drugs sold to you at a profit. You see, you cannot hold the exclusive production rights on a naturally occurring substance. You can't go to Washington, D.C. and patent orange juice or oxygen or buttercups. But you can make a man-made synthetical pharmaceutical, and you can profit from that all day long for about 25 years. Now, again, I couldn't make this stuff up. On March 22nd, 1990, the FDA banned the sale of L-tryptophan. They banned it, saying that it caused a rare disease, eosinophilia myalgia syndrome. Oh, we can't have that. Tryptophan's been known to cause this. Of course, it hadn't. This was a lie. But nonetheless, the FDA propped up this bad research, banned the sale of L-tryptophan. 4 days later, interestingly enough, 4 days later, Newsweek released an entire article devoted to the wonders of Prozac. See a coincidence there? Tryptophan increases serotonin. We can't have that, so let's remove it from the marketplace so people will be forced to buy Prozac. People who are depressed will be forced to buy Prozac. That's exactly what they did. Interestingly enough, 3 years later, the U.S. government saw fit to issue a patent to a company, a drug company, allowing them to use L-tryptophan as a treatment for the very disease that they said tryptophan caused. And nobody caught them. Nobody called them on it. Because remember, the pharmaceutical industry, the MDs, exist in a self-policing, self-regulating institution. The Food and Drug Administration does not have the back of the American citizens. It has the back of the pharmaceutical industry, period. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not the ravings of a disenfranchised holistic physician. These are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. And to drive it home, the patent on Prozac expired in 2001, which was exactly the same year that the Food and Drug Administration released the ban on L-tryptophan. Ladies and gentlemen, the medical marketplace has been compromised, manipulated, and monopolized by the pharmaceutical industry to their betterment and your detriment. Which would be better, to take a naturally occurring amino acid to increase levels of serotonin, or to take a man-made synthetic drug rife with side effects in order to control and overpower the natural workings of the human body? This is the ideation that the MDs bring to bear, and this is why I encourage people wholeheartedly to fire your medical doctor, because they have nothing for you except bad science. Bad dog, no biscuit. If you have a bullet in your arm, heaven forbid, a third-degree compound fracture of your leg bone, you have a bleeding artery, go to the MD, because that's their wheelhouse. But if you're suffering from depression, all you have to do is follow the money to understand that your medical doctor is the wrong dog for this hunt. You know, in all of this doom and gloom, and look, whether it's an MAO inhibitor, a serotonin selective reuptake inhibitor, a tricyclic antidepressant, it does not matter. You don't need to understand biochemistry. All you need to understand is that the MDs are attempting to usurp, overpower, and control the natural biochemistry of your body because they are clueless as to what causes depression. They do not have an any earthly idea of what causes depression. They don't even know what causes heartburn. So how effective do you think they'll be at understanding what causes depression or what to do to cure it? They won't be. And yet, because they exist inside of the monopoly, we go back to them and we go back to them and we go back to them, because they have told you for the last 100 years that me and my colleagues, that I and my colleagues are quacks with back-of-the-bus substandard treatments, which is, of course, a lie. Now, all of this doom and gloom begs the question, well, what the heck are we going to do? I'm depressed, man. I get it. Drugs don't work. They're a bad way, an inferior way. They don't get to the root of the cause. They're rife with side effects. They have to increase the dose every couple of years. What am I going to do? I don't want to do that. Well, you've come to exactly the right place. Now, again, you know, I don't know why, but it seems that what myself and my colleagues are up to, the dish that we've been served in the 21st century, is the job of myth-busting. Every single solitary thing that I articulate about holistic medicine flies directly in the face of conventional wisdom. Remember when everybody thought the earth was flat? Yeah. Remember when everybody thought childhood labor was an economic necessity? Yeah. Remember when everybody said, oh, those blacks, they're not people, they're animals. That's why we can enslave them. Oh, yeah, that was a bad idea. Reality by consensus, right? Well, we're suffering from two cultural myths right now. Number one, the MD is the undisputed king of the medical marketplace. Everybody else is a back-of-the-bus quack. You have to do it the MD's way or shut up and get out of my office. It's nonsense. Remember, the medical doctor is just trained in one piece of the pie of medical science. But the pharmaceutical industry has sold that to you as everything. Myth number two, healing is a complicated, sophisticated process that can only happen in multi-million-dollar high-tech facilities. Baloney. Surgery is a complicated process. And if you have the choice of having surgery done in a MASH tent or in a multi-million-dollar high-tech complex, go for the high-tech complex. But when we are attempting to heal the body from depression, it's 1,000 times easier than you have been led to believe, because the operative understanding of all types of holistic medicine is this. The human body knows how to fix itself. The human body wants to fix itself. The human body is endowed with a God-given ability to fix itself. The human body is so smart, it grew itself all by itself from a single-celled organism into you. You think if it knew how to do that, it knows how to not be depressed? You think if it knows how to do that, it knows how to not have an arthritic joint? You think if it knows how to do that, it knows how to have healthy energy and sleep? You think the body knows how to do that? Holistic physicians resoundingly say yes. The only people that say no have MD after their name. And look where their treatments have left us. Your body knows how to have healthy brain chemistry. It does. Your body knows how to have optimal levels of neurotransmitters. It does. When your body is depressed, it's not because you have a bad gene. It's because you have a bad doctor. We are up to a big thing here. We are generating a grassroots coalition of the informed. The information that I'm giving you tonight will not enter the mainstream in our lifetime. We have to do it through an underground network of sorts. It's not really underground, but it's not mainstream. I graduated from a fully accredited naturopathic medical school with honors. But I'm only allowed to practice medicine in 18 states in the United States, and insurance only covers it in 5. We don't have a free medical market. As you saw with the Prozac thing, it's manipulated by Big Pharma. Big Pharma. So we are in the business of generating a grassroots coalition of the concerned, teaching people that healing is easy with foundation medical nutrition for the masses. This is what we are up to. This is why I've produced this webinar, to help to educate you about the simple steps you can take right now to get back your health, to at least get in the game of healing, for goodness sakes. Now, I've been doing this for 27 years clinically. I've been treating patients for 27 years clinically with naturopathic, science-based, clinically verified naturopathic treatments. And for the last 6 years, I've been mentoring with Dr. Joel Wallach, the founder of the Youngevity company. I've been using Dr. Wallach's research, leaning on Dr. Wallach's therapeutics, and as God is my witness, I am here to tell you that since I have been following Dr. Wallach's lead, the things that I have seen people recover from eclipse in effectiveness anything that I'd seen before. Dr. Wallach is a legend in naturopathic medicine. He literally wrote the book on medical nutrition, The Diseases of Exotic Animals. It was a $25 million research project, took 12 years. It completely reorganized our understanding of the relationship between nutrients and disease. So if I were you and I wanted to try a holistic, science-based, clinically verified alternative to pharmaceuticals for depression, then I would lean on the wisdom of Dr. Wallach, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Remember, healing is easy. Depression is not complicated. It's not genetic. It all boils down to something very, very simple, elegantly simple. If this tank represents your body's nutrient needs, in order for your brain chemistry to work the way that God intended it, and for everything else in your body to work, your nutritional tank has to be topped off every day with 90 essential nutrients. 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 essential fatty acids for a grand total of 90. Your body needs 60 minerals a day. Calcium, sulfur, zinc, chromium, vanadium, and a whole lot more. 60 minerals a day, 16 vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, 12 amino acids, tryptophan being one of them, and omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acids, 90 essential nutrients, but these nutrients are not in the food. They're not in the food, not all of them. There's no more food in our food. And it's because of agricultural practices, and this is why you see different rates of depression in different parts of the world, because of the soil condition in those parts of the world, period. Well, if our tank needs to be topped off every day with the 90 essential nutrients because we've taken the advice of our medical doctor and we've listened to the people who make the food tell us what food to eat, most people's nutritional tank is less than half full. Less than half. And then you experience the stress of life. It drains your tank, and then things start to break. Heartburn is caused by a deficiency in calcium and salt. High blood pressure is caused by a deficiency in magnesium. Arthritis is caused by a deficiency in sulfur-bearing molecules and a multitude of minerals. Depression is caused by mineral deficiencies, multiple mineral deficiencies, on top of a diet which is overly high in carbohydrates. It is directly related to a blood sugar issue and mineral deficiencies. Interestingly enough, amino acid deficiencies are also at play, but to a lesser extent. So because healing is easy, because your body knows how to have healthy brain chemistry, because your body knows how to have healthy hormone levels, because your body knows how to regulate its sleep and waking cycle, because your body knows how to churn out energy, our basic recommendation is fill your tank up. We're not going to force the body's hand. We're not going to try to overpower, manipulate, or control the exquisite biochemistry of the body. We are going to lean on the fundamental holistic belief that your body knows how to be not depressed. But your body needs raw materials to get the job done. It needs 90 essential nutrients, and they're not in your food. They're not there. So you must supplement. You must fill the tank up. Period. If you do not fill your tank up, then you're going to have to struggle along and get more drugs. And by the way, did you ever wonder why drugs stop working after a while? Why the Prozac stops working? Why the tricyclic antidepressant stops working? You ever wonder why? And they got to increase the dose? Ever wonder why your blood pressure medication stops working? They have to increase the dose or add a second or a third medicine? Well, when pharmaceuticals react with the human body, they push your biochemistry this way or that way. They upregulate your metabolism one way or the other. What's your metabolism made out of? Nutrients. What don't you have enough of? Nutrients. So the longer that you're under the influence of a prescription drug, the less nutrients you have. So the drug works less effectively. Now you think the biochemists at the pharmaceutical think tanks don't know this? Only problem is if they put nutrients in with the antidepressants, they would be able to sell less antidepressants because they would work better. So they don't. So who suffers? You suffer. Who goes to jail? Nobody. Who gets sick and dies? You do. Who goes bankrupt? You do. Not on my watch, quite frankly. Healing is easy. So in order to give your body all of the raw materials that it needs to have healthy brain chemistry, this is what you need. I'm going to line this up for you on the next page, but look, this is basic, holistic understanding. Your body knows how to be not depressed. And science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition is the first, second, and third thing that you should do. If you are suffering from depression, whether it's mild depression, whether it's medium depression, or whether it's suicidal ideation, you need medical nutrition.